Hello, friends, and welcome back to Journeys by Jingle, where we talk about travel, vacations, and how to make the most of your hard-earned time off. I'm Jennifer Engel, owner of Journeys by Jingle, and your signature theme park and cruise specialist. Today's topic is one of the most common questions I get from prospective clients. How far in advance should I book my vacation? Whether we're talking about a Disney vacation, a cruise, an all-inclusive resort, or a bucket list trip you've been dreaming about for years, timing matters. Now, if you're looking for the short answer, here it is. For most vacations, I recommend booking 9 to 12 months in advance. All right, that's all for this week. I'm kidding. If that's all that you're here for, there you go, 9 to 12 months in advance. But let me explain the why behind that. Not because I'm trying to get you to commit to something over a year ahead of time, but because booking early gives you the best combination of pricing, availability, flexibility, and options. So today, I want to explain why I recommend that timeline and what can happen when you wait, when last-minute travel actually does make sense, and how working with a travel advisor early can save you money and headaches down the road. So let's dive in. One of the biggest myths in travel is that if you wait long enough, prices will eventually drop. Now, sometimes that happens. But most of the time, especially for the types of vacations I specialize in, that's not how it works. Think about a cruise ship. When a sailing first opens for booking, there are thousands of cabins available. The cruise line has plenty of inventory to sell. As people begin booking, the best cabins disappear first. The cabins near the elevators, the family cabins, the suites, the cabins with the best locations. As inventory shrinks, cruise lines become less focused on filling the ship and more focused on maximizing revenue from what's left. The same thing happens with Disney resorts. The same thing happens with popular all-inclusive resorts. The same thing happens with many guided vacation packages. The earlier you book, the more choices you have. And honestly, choice is more valuable than the discount itself. Because once something sells out, it's gone. In fact, I recently had a perfect example of this. A few months ago, a prospective client reached out to me about taking a cruise this fall. She wasn't looking for just any cruise. She had a very specific ship in mind and a very specific itinerary she wanted. We went through my onboarding process. We talked about what she was looking for. I prepared her quote and laid out her options. Then life happened. We didn't reconnect for a few weeks. When we finally touched base again recently, I went back into the system to update the pricing and refresh her quote. And you know what I found? The sailing had completely sold out. Not more expensive, not limited, sold out. Every cabin on that ship was gone. At that point, we weren't discussing pricing anymore. We were discussing completely different ships and completely different itineraries. And that's why I tell people the biggest risk of waiting isn't always paying more. Sometimes the vacation you actually wanted simply isn't available anymore. This is also a good time to talk about something many travelers don't know exists: complimentary holds and refundable deposits. Many suppliers allow travel advisors to place a temporary hold on a reservation. Sometimes it's 24 hours, sometimes it's several days. It varies depending on the supplier. A complimentary hold can give you a little breathing room while you make a decision. And then there are refundable deposits. Not every supplier offers them, and they aren't right for every situation, but they can be incredibly valuable. If you've found the sailing, resort, or room category you really want, a refundable deposit may allow you to lock it in while still giving yourself flexibility later. Think of it as reserving your place in line. Because once inventory disappears, there's nothing I can do to magically bring it back. One of the reasons I encourage clients to start planning early is so we can have these conversations before we're under pressure. When we start planning 9 to 12 months out, we have options. When we start planning 30 days before departure, we're often working with whatever happens to be left. Now let's talk about why I personally love working with clients who plan ahead. One of the biggest advantages is that I can continue monitoring your reservation after you've booked. Let's say we book a cruise 11 months before departure. A few months later, the cruise line releases a promotion. If your reservation qualifies, I may be able to apply that promotion and save you money. The same thing can happen with Disney vacations or certain package vacations or supplier promotions that become available after you've already booked. You can't take advantage of opportunities like that if you're booking 3 weeks before you leave. When you book late, we're essentially taking whatever inventory remains and whatever pricing exists at that moment. When you book early, we have time on our side, and time is one of the most valuable tools in travel planning. Here's another thing I think is important for travelers to understand. My service doesn't change based on when you book. Whether you book a year in advance or a month in advance, you're getting the same support from me. You're getting destination expertise, you're getting vacation planning assistance, you're getting recommendations, you're getting someone to answer questions, you're getting someone who can help if things go sideways. You're getting the same level of service. The difference is that the client who booked early often paid less and had more choices. The client who waited often pays more and has fewer choices. Both receive the same service. One simply had more opportunities available to them. And if I'm being honest, I would much rather help my clients spend less money than more money. Now, there are certain vacations where I would actually recommend booking even earlier than 9 to 12 months. Disney vacations during spring break, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Disney Cruise Line holiday sailings, Alaska cruises, European cruises, group cruises, special event sailings. Oftentimes, if you know that you are going to be looking at one of these vacations, I keep a running list of clients who want to book those specific vacations. And as soon as the booking window opens, I am in there making that reservation. I have had clients book Alaska cruises more than a year in advance. I've had clients reserve group cruise cabins long before final payment was due. The more specific your vacation goals are, the earlier we should start talking. In fact, I have an Alaskan group cruise set for July of 2027. We are currently in May of 2026, and all of my group space for that cruise is sold out. Now, if you would still like to join us on that Alaskan group cruise, please come along, join my group. I am a lot of fun in person. But I had specific cabins set aside at the rock bottom rate of as soon as that cruise became public, I went in and took that inventory. So I can now book cabins for people, but not at the rock bottom inventory prices that I had when the cruise first launched. So please reach out to me and join my cruise. Now, every rule has exceptions, so let's talk about last-minute travel. Yes, last-minute deals still exist, but here's what most people don't realize. Last-minute deals work best when you're flexible. If you tell me, Jennifer, I can leave any weekend this month, I don't care where I go, and I can fly from multiple airports, we can probably find something fun. But that's not how most families travel. Most families have school schedules, work schedules, sports schedules, limited vacation days, specific destinations, specific budgets, specific travel dates. The more restrictions you have, the harder it becomes to find great last-minute opportunities. That's why I don't recommend building your vacation strategy around the hope that prices might magically drop. Could it happen? Sure. Does it happen consistently? Not really. One of my favorite sayings is this: I've never had a client call me because they booked too early. I've had plenty of clients call me because they waited too long. The reality is that starting the planning process early doesn't mean you have to commit immediately. In fact, some of my favorite clients are the ones who reach out before they know exactly what they want. They're thinking about next summer. They're considering an anniversary cruise. They're tossing around ideas for a family vacation. They're not ready to book tomorrow. They're ready to start exploring. Those are often the easiest vacations to plan because we have time. Time to compare options, time to watch promotions, time to adjust plans, time to make smart decisions instead of rushed decisions. So, if you are listening today and you're thinking about traveling sometime next year, this is your sign to start the conversation now. You don't need exact dates. You don't need a destination picked out. You don't need every detail figured out. You just need an idea. Tell me your budget. Tell me who's traveling. Tell me what type of experience you're looking for. And together we'll figure out the rest. Because the best vacations don't start when you board the plane. They start when you create a plan. Thank you so much for joining me today for today's episodes of Journey by Jingle. If you're ready to start planning your next adventure, I'd love to help. You can find me at journeysbyjingle.net, connect with me on social media, or reach out directly. And remember, for most vacations, 9 to 12 months ahead is ideal. Not because you need to rush into a decision, but because it gives you the most choices, the best opportunities, and the least amount of stress. Until next time, pack your bags, the world is waiting, and let's get you there.